Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Tampa Bay Real Producers podcast. This, of course, is the podcast that is made for real producers, by real producers, and with none other than Tampa Bay's Real Producers, as well as powered by Top Producers Nation, helping agents all over the country become top producers in their desired markets. And today, we get to hang out with the famous, the American songwriter himself, Mr. Paul Simon. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Right.
You look a little different, Paul, from over the years of singing your big hits. So I'm sure we have some jokes that we can tell about that, as we mentioned. But those of you who might recognize Paul, though, as our rising star in the August 2024 feature of Tampa Bay Real Producers. So we're going to dive into Paul's story here, which is a fascinating one for sure. But Paul, it's good to have you in the studio, man.
Thank you. It's great to be here this morning. So.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm excited about it. So why don't we start a little bit with just kind of your background and how you made your way eventually to Florida, what type of business opportunities you were involved with, and eventually how you got interested in real estate. We'll start there.
We can do that. But let's go back to Paul Simon for a second.
Okay.
Because my favorite response to that has been to pretend I don't know who Paul Simon is. And I've done this for a long time. Yes. I've got a great poker face.
I'm sure you hear it a lot, right?
Oh, yeah, I hear it a lot. Where's Garfunkel? So I'll pretend I don't know who he is. Mm-hmm. And you'll be convinced that if you sing a song, I'll know who he is. So I'd go through this routine, and I just do it to kind of make you look stupid.
Right.
Because you tease me. So I've done this for years. So back in like the late 80s, worked for the waste company and a big contracting company. And one of the VPs was a guy to Chicago.
Okay.
And back in the 50s, he was a boxer. And his claim to fame was that he knocked down Sugar Ray Robinson.
Sure.
But he was actually a boxer for the mob.
Okay.
So in the late 80s, his friends from Chicago would come down. And we were all drinking Whiskey Joes, and he would introduce everybody. And there was this guy, his name was Big Ed.
Big Head.
Big Ed.
Okay.
So Big Ed was 5 feet tall, 5 feet wide, 300 pounds of muscle. He didn't have a neck, it was just muscle.
Right.
And his arms were as big as your thighs.
Popeye.
And he could bend a dime in his teeth.
Wow.
Literally. I mean, think of the strength you have in your fingers to do that. So,
yeah.
So I'm going real hard on not knowing who Paul Simon is, and it's just to make you look silly, right?
Right.
So then I let him off, and then I'm thinking, I just made the guy who bends dimes in his teeth and probably kills people for the mob look stupid in front of his friends, right? And I'm thinking, I should run.
Second thoughts
and
on
he
that
grabs
one.
me, and he grabs me, he squeezes me, and he shakes me like a little rag doll.
Yeah.
And I think it's not going to go well today. And he puts me down and he's like, oh, that was pretty funny.
You really got me on that one.
Right. I'm not going to do that for people who kill for the mob anymore. So.
Yeah.
But I still do.
Yeah, you got to know your audience, Paul. You must know your audience on that one.
So happily I survived that episode. So
that's awesome. So I'm sure you hear a lot about the Paul Simon jokes, though, for sure. It probably gets old pretty quickly.
You'd be amazed, though. Even the young guys know who Paul Simon is,
Oh, yeah.
And I can tell your age by the song that you sing.
Right.
Or your parents' age. If you're a young guy, I know what your parents were listening to.
Right,
so.
right. So where did you grow up, Paul? Was it in New York?
Yeah, I grew up in Niagara Falls.
Okay.
Came down to Tampa in '86, selling coffee, vending, things like that.
Yeah. What drew you to Tampa?
The company that I worked for in Niagara Falls was down here. So
okay.
They were actually the big contracting company, and they were in the waste business, and then they sold, and then they waited their 5 years and went back in. So as they transitioned into waste, I did the same thing. So,
okay.
And
you just kind of followed them down here to Tampa, and they built it up. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Young guy. So.
It's funny. So some people hear the waste management business and they automatically think about being a made man or connected or whatever.
That a lot too, yeah.
I'm sure.
And I can assure you 100% I'm legit,
I'm not asking, Paul.
No, 100%. I swear about it. But if you ever met my friend Dominic, you would swear that I wasn't 100% legit. And he's 100% legit. Well, let me say that properly. He is 100% legit now.
There you go. There you go.
Out of Brooklyn. So
well, I'm sure
not
though.
So sure then,
because you've been in that industry for many years now, so I'm sure you have many stories or at least fascinating connections, right? And experiences where you'd be able to see the different sides of these transactions. I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty clean business these days.
I'm sure. Yeah, no doubt.
But we have the reputation. There was a big meeting a couple of decades ago in Clearwater where they drew all the haulers in. They were having issues. And the guy introduces himself and says, I'm sure you all know each other. And we all look around the room like, we don't know anybody in this room. If there's this many waste haulers in one room, it's usually a federal indictment going down. So we avoid each other, so. but it's all fun.
So did you
It's
end
not
up
real. Yeah.
opening up your own business in that industry at one point?
So I worked for that company for a while, left, did some sales, and then I opened up my own company
Okay.
in 2001. So
Okay, cool. In the same industry, right?
same industry, yeah.
Okay, and you still have that today, correct?
Yeah, I've sold it, went back in, sold it again, and now
Okay.
I'm simply just managing for the person I sold it to. So
Okay.
the business is up and down. It's mostly construction waste with home builders and commercial builders.
Yep.
So that it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? I wouldn't say turbulent, but you're living with the economy.
Yeah.
So as it rises, you're doing great. When as
It could be pretty volatile,
yeah,
huh?
especially during the crash, things to that effect.
That makes sense.
You know,
And so was real estate always an interest for you, or did
Yeah.
that come at some point, or did you kind of always know you wanted to get a license, or how did that happen?
well, I've been in that business for a long time, so I've seen a lot of real estate develop. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So even up in Newport Richey, that area, it's gone from pastures to, housing development, St. Pete, Tampa. So I've always had an interest in it, and I've always been a curious George. So
Yeah.
if I have a dumpster on a site, it's like a free pass to trespass.
Yeah.
So if it's an interesting job, I'll walk it through, look at the building. My wife will call, like, where are you? And 2 hours later, I'm still looking framing on a house that I thought was interesting. So, so I've always had an interest in the construction world and the real estate development. So, and then it just seemed like a natural transition. We were buying and selling. We moved to downtown St. Pete in 2014, and we did a remodel, and we bought in a new building.
Okay.
And we sold both of those, bought in the next building. So we've rented and bought and sold in St. Pete for
So
the
you've
last
had a
10
little bit of
years.
like a flipping experience
Yeah,
as well.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Not as a true flipper where I'm
Right.
but
Because it sounds like you were living in the properties.
we were living, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it reduces the risk when you're living there.
Yeah, totally.
So, but it's worked out very well. St. Pete is just,
Yeah, we were
taken
talking off
off,
camera.
yeah.
The valuation boosts in St. Pete over the
Yeah.
years have been pretty impressive.
yeah, especially in the downtown market.
Oh, yeah.
It's been crazy. So
It doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon.
sure. So, people got friends. I've got some really great friends, and they're just like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I like that spot. I don't like that spot. And then I realized I'm just passing along commissions.
Yeah.
I mean, we did $4 million in our own flips, and I passed along another $6. I'm thinking, well, that's
Maybe
a
I
lot
should
of
capture
cash.
some of
Maybe
that.
Maybe I should get a license.
Yeah.
So I sat down, got a license.
And that was just a few years ago, right?
Yeah, just
Yeah. So Paul just got licensed, little over 2 years ago, I think you said, right?
yeah, just over two.
And as you could tell with the feature that we just did on him, has been a rising star in this market since getting licensed. And so obviously a lot, I would imagine, of your success early on is due to the network and the connections you've had through your business,
Yes,
right, over the
exactly.
years.
Yeah.
Let's
Friends.
talk a little bit about that. So has that been the sole way that you've kind of done real estate so far, is just organic connection, organic network, or have you done anything else intentionally to try to get lead flow? Or
Well, I started working for one of the discount brokers, where there's no services.
yeah,
And then I moved to a brokerage that had an office on Beach Drive. So,
yeah, you're with Coastal Properties, right? Today,
Yeah.
Coastal
Before
Properties
that,
Group.
Coldwell Banker had an office on
Sure.
Beach as well.
Sure.
So started with Coldwell. They had an office there. I mean, I'm an old soul, I guess. I just turned 60, but I'm an old cold caller. Back in the 80s, you knocked on doors, and I like that personal connection that you only have about 5 or 10 seconds to make it, and you either make it or you don't.
Yeah.
know? So, but with an office on Beach Drive, there's an opportunity to connect with people that you have no other chance to connect with.
For
You know
sure.
what I'm saying? And you can market your life away.
A lot of foot traffic.
A lot of
around
foot traffic.
there.
They're from Canada, they're from Missouri, they're Minnesota, they're in Michigan, and you're not going to find those people through conventional means. You
Yep.
know? And I'm no Instagram star, that's for sure. So I don't think I'm going to find them that way. But they come to the door. It's not even like me cold calling and knocking on their door. They're
Yeah.
coming to my door.
Yeah.
So I got a couple of seconds to make a connection and see if they're actually interested. And you'd be surprised how many people have been thinking about it and finally say, let's do it.
Yeah.
There's a whole group of people who have been planning to retire and move to Florida. We've all been in Florida a long time. That's the normal scenario. You work your whole life, you retire, you move to Florida. But after COVID, people working remotely, they're like, well,
Right.
why wait?
Why wait? Let's
If
do
I
it now.
can work anywhere. Why be in a high tax state if I can move to Florida, sunshine?
Totally.
So
So you have found, obviously there was a big push, I feel like, during that COVID timeframe when a lot of these states got locked down.
Yeah.
Florida at least stayed open for the most part and was a little bit more freer than most states were. And there really was a big population boom, I feel like, into our state during that time. Have you seen that trend continue even since then, or have you seen any sort of changes?
Well, it's summer now, so you see a little bit of slowdown. But
Sure.
yeah, last winter was very
It was pretty
busy.
booming, huh?
Yeah, it was. So
Yeah.
they're still coming. I mean, Florida's economy for the last 30 years has been people moving.
Yep.
You know, I mean, when I got here, I think the population was 10, maybe 11 million.
Mm-hmm.
We just passed 23.
Mm-hmm.
We're projected to hit 30.
Yep.
COVID sort of. Sorry about that.
That's all right. You can smack it around all you want. It's all good.
Talk with my hands. COVID sort of, accelerated that a little bit. I think it's starting to level back off, but, somewhere between 300 and 1,000 people move to Florida every day. That's...
And a lot from the New York area, a lot from the
York,
Northeast and California, and some from out
California.
West as well.
Exactly.
So it's interesting because so when you had this, I guess it was Colwell or possibly even, because doesn't Coastal Properties, they also have an office there, right? On Beach?
Yeah, so Colwell closed the office, and Coastal gave me a call, and I'm like, well, I know you got an office on Beach Drive, and that's what I do.
So you'll go hang out in the office still?
Yeah, I take.
Okay.
Yep.
How much time do you usually spend there?
I spend probably 9 to 15 hours. You know,
Okay.
I take the shifts nobody likes. I mean,
Yeah.
Friday afternoon, Saturday and Sunday, that's when the people are strolling.
Totally.
They're strolling, they're drinking, and
Yeah.
and they're thinking about coming to Florida. It's,
Yeah, man. No, it makes sense. So you're kind of just hanging out in the office. It's a foot traffic constantly on that Beach Drive with everything that's booming down there. Yeah. And you find that you have people that just kind of walk into the office and you just initiate a conversation, or do
nobody
you?
technically walks in. They walk up.
They're
to
checking out
board.
the pictures on the windows. Yeah.
So then I just walk up
Intentionally go out and initiate a conversation, right?
and introduce myself as Paul Simon.
Yeah.
Get a couple jokes going, and then we see where it goes.
With a margarita in your hand, right?
My favorite bar's next door too. So that was the thing about Friday nights. I mean, we were a flute and dram anyways. I'm thinking, well, I'm sitting there. Why don't I just sit
Might
here
as
for a
well,
couple hours?
try to make some money out of it.
Walking by, snooping. So it's
Totally.
it's worked out pretty well. So
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. It's funny because we interview a lot of different people here on the show, and everyone has kind of different ways that they've grown their business, right? And nothing that you said is groundbreaking in terms of being like a new idea, but it's funny because it doesn't feel like, at least from my experience, that a lot of agents do that. They don't really take advantage of like a good location like that, and specifically have shifts that they're out there to initiate conversations. I mean, to me, it makes all the sense in the world, right? You have a constant stream of traffic that's just walking by you. Why not take advantage of it?
and you'll never have another opportunity with that particular person.
Right.
So you got one shot.
Right.
Some of the people look at me like, why am I trying to sell them something? Well, you stopped at my door.
Exactly.
I didn't stop at your door.
You're walking by my house.
Exactly, right? So
I can't be a rude neighbor and not say hi, right?
Exactly. So, and the other thing I've been working through is my network of contractors and developers.
Right.
So I've known these people a long time.
Yep.
And it's a transition to go from the waste guy to, the real estate person. But
Sure.
But so far, I've got a couple of really great things in the works.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
And your averages have all been pretty luxury based. I think it looks like, based on your numbers, you did over 20 million in volume we were talking about before, somewhere around 15 or so transactions. So you're averaging over $1 million a pop, right?
Two of them were 5 million and up. Yeah.
And those were in St. Pete, I take it, in that area.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, when you're dealing specifically in that luxury space, it's not like you need big volume in order to do big sales numbers, right? Because the numbers kind of add up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Now, you might not have a distinction because maybe you don't necessarily have a comparison to what it's like to work with more of your middle class neighborhood or buyer or seller versus the luxury side.
Oh, we do both. I mean,
Okay.
some of the people at the window, their budget's 300,000.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
You've served both the audiences there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. People traveling looking for second homes.
Tough to find somebody for 300,000 though in that St. Pete area, right?
Yeah.
That'll be a rough. That's a rough budget, man.
I got one for 360 not too long ago, but yeah.
Maybe a little studio apartment somewhere that you can find them. I don't know.
Especially during COVID. So 4 or 5. But again, I don't discriminate. I'm not like the luxury sales guy, and if you're not buying 10 million, I'm not talking to you.
Do you have a certain neighborhood or niche over there that you've really had some success with, or
it's been most of St. Pete? Yeah,
okay,
down near Terra
anything
Verde.
Downtown, like the buildings down there too?
Yeah, most of the big ones. The two of the 3 biggest have been downtown. One was down by Terra Verde.
Okay,
so yeah, and I've got a lot of experience with the condos because we bought we were like number 10 in reservation for the one.
Yeah.
So I knew that building very well.
Yep.
We were very early on. We have a reservation right now in 400 Central.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a great building.
Yep.
We lived in the Signature. We've lived in the Bayfront. We did a remodel in the Bayfront. So we have a lot of experience with all of the different buildings. And they all have their own certain vibe. You
Sure.
know what I'm saying? You know,
Yeah.
certain
They all
personality.
attract a certain type of seller and buyer as well,
Yeah,
I would
just-
imagine.
They tend to have a personality. And I would say the one is still king. You know, the Salterra went up and they thought they were going to be the 1A, but they're really not. It didn't work out.
They're still building some other towers down there, aren't they?
Yeah, so 400 Central is the newest tower.
Yep.
And then there's Coulter's doing another one, the Art House.
Okay.
So of the two that are going right now, I prefer 400. So
Do you guys live in St. Pete as well?
yeah, we live in St. Pete. Yeah,
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So, I mean, are you like walking distance to that beach drive area?
Yes,
So I was telling you off camera, it's a really cool spot to just kind of go walk down and have some lunch at and take a, tour and take a thing by the pier. And so there's a lot going on in that area
There
for
is.
sure.
And we got rid of a car. I mean, we hardly ever drive living downtown. So
Nice.
one car, it's very walkable.
Yeah.
It's a great community.
Do you enjoy what you're doing now on the real estate side more so than the years you had in your construction industry or your hauling industry, or is it just different?
It's very different.
Yeah.
But I like this. I mean, I like to do a deal. I don't care if it's,
Yeah.
10 million or $5. I mean,
Sure.
it used to drive my wife crazy in garage sales when we lived down in the suburbs. It was like 3 CDs for $5. They offer 2. I'm like 4, and we settled at 3.
Yeah.
She's like, you did
Just
all
a
that for
natural
$1,
negotiator.
But I was like, maybe it was $1, but he wanted 60% off, and I did it for 40.
That's
So,
right.
look
You just
at the
want to feel like you got a
percentages.
good deal.
It was a win. So
I can relate.
So any sale's a sale. So,
Yeah, man.
But
No, it makes sense. What do you find the most fulfilling about what you're doing now in the real estate world?
I mean, everybody says, I'm here to help people, and
Sure.
and I am. I like to help people. I like to make the best deal for people that's possible.
Yep.
So either on the buy side or the sell.
So the
side.
art of the negotiation.
Yeah, I like that. And I like, and I'm not trying to murder everybody or kill everybody, but if you're my client, I want to get the best deal for you.
Yeah.
And it's really that simple. And you can't be afraid. I mean, people are like, well, that offer's really low. They're going to be insulted. Well, I mean, we didn't know them before,
Right.
and we won't know them again if they
not
don't
gonna
take
lose
the
sleep
deal.
over it.
Yeah, so they're
Right.
a stranger, and if
You
I've
never know what
insulted a
offers they're
stranger,
actually getting right
You don't
now.
know where they're going to be.
Right.
Exactly. And then when you're on the seller side, they give you that low ball offer, and you just give them a ridiculous counter. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So where's the middle?
Right.
You're offering me 15% off, and I'm coming back at a 0.5% off. You
Yeah.
know, are we going to settle at 5? So.
Yeah, it makes sense. With your background too, Paul, do you do anything in the real estate world in the commercial space, or has it all just been residential for now?
It's mostly residential. I've
Okay.
got a couple of deals going where there's some land that we're
You
trying
might develop?
to sell. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was actually a piece of land that I owned that I sold in the deal,
Okay.
and we were developing it, and now we're going to try to flip it. So it's gone way up in value. So
Just flip the land. There's nothing on it right now.
nothing on it. Yeah.
Got
raw
it.
Land. So
Yeah, I mean, in that area, I would think land is hard to come by.
actually, this is up by the airport. So
Gotcha.
deal. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say.
yeah.
So
So
that area.
Yeah.
The
So
land is still hard to come by in all of Pinellas County for the most part.
Oh, Pinellas County stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's just nothing. And they're doing a lot what they call in builds. So I've got a couple of contractors that, if they can get the house at the right price, they'll tear it down, and the numbers have to work. It was 800,000, and they're building a 3.5 million, but that's not happening as much anymore. So
Right.
now they need to buy at 300 or 400 and put up $1.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
And everyone's different. Some builders work on a percentage if they can't get their percentage. Some builders just work on a number.
Right.
They're going to make 300 or 400 grand on the deal. They don't care if it's 800 to 3 million or 400 to $1.5 million. So,
Yep. So the builder connections that you have from your previous industry, is that also helped you on the real estate side
yes,
so far?
it has. So
Yeah.
far, I've done a couple deals, and I hope to do a lot. I mean, I've
Mm-hmm.
got some potential to do really 15 new builds. With
Oh,
one
wow.
guy. Yeah,
Is that with one builder?
one builder? Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. Because it seems like I remember when I was even doing the Snell Isle thing, there's a lot of different builders that kind of hop into that market,
Sure.
and maybe just do a house or two, but you do see a lot of that custom home builds in that area. It's fairly common right now, it seems like.
Yeah, and there's a couple of big ones. David Weekley is customer we work for.
They were
and
all
I
over
don't
the
get
place.
any work from them because they have their own in-house real estate. But I can sort of follow where they're building, where they're tearing down is where, they see things that, I don't have to do the research because, Weekly's now in a neighborhood that I wouldn't expect them to be in.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's going on in the neighborhood? What are the houses being torn down at?
Yeah. You can learn a lot from just watching that trend, I would imagine.
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier off camera, Paul, that you guys are doing some stuff and maybe even doing some business in Italy.
Yes.
And so first off, have you always just loved going to Italy and visiting as a country? And I know you said your wife is Italian.
Yeah, my wife's Italian. So we visited it for the first time about 8-9 years ago. And it's, we travel and I guess you could say I'm a dreamer, but everywhere we go, it's like, well, this would be a great place to live.
I know. I feel the same way. Every time I visit, I'm thinking, would I want to get a place here? Yeah.
But then you get home and you're like, well, it sort of wears away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Italy just didn't wear away. And we had some really great friends in the wine business, and you really do have to know somebody over there, in my opinion, to facilitate the transaction. But we were just dreaming about it and thinking about it, and it was like a 3 to 5 year plan. And our daughter was in the Army; she just got out, and her husband's in the Air Force. So we're thinking, well, sooner or later they'll do a tour in either Europe or Japan, and we vote for Europe. So we think, well, 3 or 5 years from now, we should think about having a house over there, and if they're stationed there, we'd be closer and we'd spend time with them. So
makes sense.
But our 3 to 5 year plan accelerated to a 3 to 5 month plan because every time I would just ask our friends in the wine business, "What do you think of this place? What do you think of that place?" I would just expect an email back saying, "Yeah, that's a nice spot." Well, that's not what she would do. She would call the realtor, go visit it, and then send us a video of the place.
Oh, wow!
So we looked at a couple places.
That's a good friend to have.
It is a good friend to have.
Yeah,
they are great too. So they're so much fun too. So,
do you have a favorite place to visit in Italy, or where in the country?
We ended up buying in Verona.
Okay.
So
now where is that in relation to like Rome and Florence?
So if you have Milan, Venice, Florence, Verona's on the main line between Venice and Milan.
Okay.
So it has a good airport.
North then.
It's right
North
on the main
Italy.
track. Yeah.
Yep.
North Italy.
Yep.
It's in the area called Valpolicella. So if
okay.
you've had the wines from the north, it's a very rich wine area. And that's where our friends were from. And we had other friends down in Tuscany near Siena. And we were very afraid too when we were mentioning to Claire from Tuscany that we were going to buy a place in Verona. We knew the first thing she'd say is, "Why you buy there? Why you not buy here?" Right? And exactly what she said, right? And then she's like, "Oh, I love Verona. Her dentist was in Verona. Her architect was from Verona."
Oh, nice.
So she gets on a video call with her architect, and we have an architect before we even have the place purchased.
That's wild.
So it
was
worked
meant
out really
to be.
cool. It really was. So
you ended up buying your own spot out there, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And we were talking off camera. It sounds like you go every couple of months, stay there, come back here every couple of months.
Yeah.
So the dreaming that you guys put together as far as that lifestyle, has that been everything you thought it would be, is being able to have that access?
It has. It's been very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I mean, Italy is completely different. And I'm not like trying to escape from America. America is great.
Sure.
And opportunity in this country.
Oh, dude, I would love to get a
wonderful.
spot in Italy. You kidding me?
Yeah. But Italy's just so different, you know what I mean? And it's just very enjoyable. The food is great. The people are great.
I was there
welcoming.
once for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I stayed in Rome and Florence, so it was obviously touristy areas.
Yes.
But I mean, the experience of I always loved dinner. Like, it's a 5-hour event.
Exactly.
Every time you sit down, table wine is served like water, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I love how they space out the meals with smaller portions, right? And so you don't feel like you're so stuffed like you do in America when you get this big plate in front of you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude, it's a totally different experience when it comes to the food, I think, and just the community feel of that. They still siesta is still a thing. Is that true over there?
Yes, it's still a thing for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So that's like every day, everything just shuts down. I mean, it is a different way of life, and I really enjoyed it when I was there.
Yeah, and we're sort of early eaters compared to Europeans, and like
sure.
So we're hungry at 5, and there's nothing open at 5. You're not eating at 5. So
what
we
is
started
it shut down from 2 to 5?
Yeah, 2 to 5.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, 3, sometimes 3. So
yeah.
So we sort of branched into a later lunch and then a later dinner.
Yeah.
Just couldn't go from 11 to 12 to 7. It's just too long.
I know.
Starving by then. So the whole thing has been a great experience. But we had a lot.
My wife is also
Italian.
Italian. I think her family's from Abruzzi.
Okay,
I don't know
sure.
if you know that. I think that's more south,
Yeah, it's more south.
Italy.
Yeah.
And she's never been there actually, so it's part of our plan is to try to get over there and see if some of her family possibly, or just we have little kids at the house, so traveling to Italy with the size of our family with our little ones is a little bit tough. But eventually, we'd like to make that happen for sure.
And my wife's family was from Benevento, which is more to the south as well, not too far from there.
Yeah.
And we visited the area, and her great grandparents came from there, but it was sort of a mystery because back then, immigrants didn't really tell their whole story. And supposedly it was from Benevento, which is a fairly large city, but it's actually like a county as well. Mm-hmm. And we figured out exactly what village he was from. Went to the village. Nobody spoke any English at all. I mean, if you didn't even pronounce Prosecco properly, they didn't know what you're talking about. So we're at a bar. She's like, "What do you want?" It's just like Prosecco. And we sort of said like a P-E, rather than a P-R-O. And she didn't have any idea.
Do you have a car when you're over there?
We do. We usually travel with a car, but living in Italy for the 3 months, you can't have a car.
No.
To get an Italian, to buy a car in Italy, you have to have an Italian license.
Okay.
You have to be able to speak Italian, and you have to have residency.
How is your Italian? Pretty good now?
Oh, it's terrible.
Still working on it, huh?
It's awful, yeah. Every once in a while, I'll pronounce a word very well when we walk in someplace, and they'll come back with 2 sentences. I'm like, I just had one word.
The only word I always nail is grazie. That's the only one I
said
do
it well. You did good, right? So.
Sometimes I'll drop that at an American restaurant, and they actually think I know how to speak Italian, and they start talking like, no, just grazie. That's it.
And we navigated an entire purchase of a unit, and all the way through building it out with a remodel.
Yeah.
And it's not, a lot of people do speak English, and especially in the service industries,
right?
And you end up going to the same place a lot, and they get to know you, and you start to pick up on words like everybody says buongiorno, or
Sure.
But there are other ways that the Italians are greeting each other, and we're starting to pick that up. Like, okay, there's a new word. What was that? What was that word? You just said something like salve. What's salve? It's like hello, instead of buongiorno. So we were picking all that up, and
just like in America, we got multiple ways that we're introducing and saying hello and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and we tend to stay out of the tourist areas, anyways.
So, what you mentioned earlier that you guys might open a business out there?
Well, what we thought we could do is help others do what we did.
Okay.
So through our friends, they helped us find the location. Helped us settle on location, because settling on a location is a big task. Because if you travel Italy, everywhere is great, okay? And you're thinking little villa on a little hill in Tuscany overlooking the vineyards.
Yeah.
But you could be 30 or 40 kilometers away from milk and butter. So you have to think that through. Do you have a vehicle? How are you going to travel when you get there? How are you going to get to your home? Is it going to be a 2-hour from the airport? Is it going to be an 8-hour day once you land? So we thought all that through, and we're not country people here. We don't live in the country now. And we live in downtown, so we thought we should at least live somewhere in a metropolitan area. Rome's too big, too busy. Milan, the same thing, too big, too busy. Florence is great, beautiful, but very, very expensive and very touristy. So then you end up in the smaller, larger cities, Siena, Verona, Lucca, places like that.
Yep.
Well, we had friends near Siena, but her town was still another 40 minutes from there. And then we had the friends in Verona, which they only lived like 20 minutes from the city center. And once you see Verona, you love Verona. I mean, it's the city of Romeo and Juliet, but it has so much history to it. And it's in that whole time frame when right before Venice became wealthy and Florence became wealthy, Verona had this period of 100 years where it was almost the center of the north. And then it disappeared. But easy access, good trains, good buses, airport, and not too expensive.
So
that's how we settled.
You were mentioning earlier, it's not like you would have an official real estate brokerage necessarily. No. That's not really the way they do things over there.
Yeah. So with the help of them, they found us a lawyer, they found us an attorney, an architect. So all of those items, all of that aspect of purchasing, you need somebody. And there's a lot of big services in Italy that you can contact, and you'll just be a person in their system. And we just thought through social networking and just a couple of little, answers to questions on some pages on Facebook.
Yeah.
I've had people contact me saying, can you help me out? So I thought, well, there is a true business here to be made.
And it doesn't, from what you said earlier,
you don't, to the people they need to know.
You don't even have to technically be licensed, right, over there in order to help somebody buy real estate.
Exactly.
And then in order to, I mean, what about in order to get a commission and stuff, though? How does that work?
Our brokerage is part of the LRE network, which is 500 brokerages across the world.
Okay.
So if I have a referral in Italy or anywhere in the world, I would refer to a network, a brokerage in the network.
Okay.
And they would simply pay a referral to my broker. So it's very simple, simple transaction. I'm not receiving money in a foreign country.
You don't need a different license or anything.
I don't need a different license. I don't need to file taxes in that country. So
got it.
So that makes it a little bit seamless. And there's a lot of people out in Italy who are selling their services that aren't even real estate brokers, real estate agents. So
the concierges, just making it happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think we'll concentrate on Verona because real estate truly is local.
Sure.
No matter what you do, I mean, if you want to try to find a house in Boston right now, you're not going to contact me. You're going to contact somebody there. So, so if you want a house in, Cinque Terre, you need to be talking to somebody who knows that market. So, so I think we'll focus.
But I'm sure even with your St. Pete connections, like there's probably people that through your network who might even have an interest in getting a villa in Italy too, right?
There's
so that's
a lot
where
of people dreaming about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Absolutely, it's one of those kind of destination places that I think a lot of people would be interested in.
Exactly,
for sure.
And it's not terribly expensive, and you hear the thing about a dollar house in Italy, and you could do that. I mean, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through, but it's not really that realistic. Because first of all, you have to be a resident to do it,
right?
And you have to live there for like 10 years. So,
did you say that you built your property out there? Or?
No, we bought an apartment. The building is from like 1550, so it's been there for 5 centuries.
Huh?
Yeah,
yeah, wow,
really cool. Had some aspects to it that we really loved. Some really cool beams and
that's cool.
Really great little piazza. And then we just decided that the bathrooms were 1980 Italian.
Yeah,
so 1980 Italian is a toilet, a bidet, and a shower.
Yeah.
All in the same space.
So, very intimate.
Very intimate, yeah. So you need an extra space for your toilet paper because it's going to get wet in the shower. So,
does your wife work in the real estate business with you at all?
No, she's an accountant by trade.
Okay.
She basically,
it's good to have somebody good at numbers, though.
Yeah,
huh?
she's a smart woman. So, and people love her. I mean,
yeah,
she is great. So
that's cool. Well, a couple things here, rapid fire, just on the personal side, Paul, for people to get to know you maybe a little bit more. What are some of your favorite things that you guys just love to do other than traveling to Italy, and what keeps you busy when you're not just slinging real estate?
Traveling is one of the things,
Yep.
We do like to build places out. We like remodels, So that whole design phase and figuring out who to use. So that's been consuming a lot of our time in Italy, just trying to find the right person to do it because the prices have been outrageous for
even over there.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've gotten prices for plumbing at like 16,000 euros that were, didn't even include the fixtures.
Wow,
and the price was really 5.
Now, didn't they have like a whole economic breakdown out there? Was it during COVID or right before
they
COVID?
Had a rough time with COVID, but they're. I don't
so they
know
didn't have like an economic collapse though out there.
No, it's not a collapse. So
maybe I think I'm thinking about Greece because Greece had a their currency just fell off the map. I guess.
Yeah. The Italian dollar right now, or the euro to the dollar is under $1.10 right now. So it's not too bad. When you're budgeting, you should.
And they're on the euro there in
Italy.
Italy.
Euro.
Yeah, right.
So, other than that, spending time.
Is it the lira their monetary as well?
It was. They're now in the.
So now it's all euro.
It's all euro now.
Okay,
exactly.
Gotcha.
The other thing we like to do is hang out with friends on Beach Drive.
Yeah, man. There's a lot to do there.
Have a cocktail or a glass of wine. So.
You said your favorite bar is the one next to the office?
Yeah, the Flute and Dram, yeah.
Yeah, I've been there before. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Flute's a great spot.
Do you have a favorite book or author or even a seminar possibly that you've ever gone to or listened to that you feel like has made an impact on you personally or professionally?
We're readers of John Grisham all these years. So always like that. There's been some novels I've been reading from American writers, but of Italian stories.
Yeah.
So there was a series I just finished with that.
Okay.
Not too many seminars anymore. Back in the days we used to go to seminars a lot, but
in the hauling industry.
Oh, even before that, in the coffee business.
I gotcha.
So, when you're young, you're trying to absorb as much as you can.
Yeah.
As far as sales.
So it sounds like you've been an entrepreneur most of your life.
Yeah, I've been in sales or managing people.
Yeah.
Pretty much my whole life.
Gotcha.
So it's really all I've done.
Yep.
So.
And no interest though in building like a real estate team. You think you like the model you have now with kind of just doing your thing?
I don't know. You never know. I mean,
it could change, huh?
Italian thing takes off.
Right.
You never know.
Might want to bring in an organization and scale that up a little bit, huh?
We could.
Yeah.
So,
how many employees did you have in the hauling business?
in the hauling business, anywhere from 15 to 20 at its peak.
Okay.
Before the big crash.
Yep.
In the coffee business, when I was just a young kid, I had 15 salespeople working for me.
Wow.
It was the
employees
Wild
or
West.
subs or both?
No,
employees,
sales reps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast in and of
yeah.
itself. Is figuring out that dynamic.
There was a lot of dynamic.
I'm sure.
So. And I was just a young kid, but I just
it
just was one of those things where
That's cool.
And in coffee, it was one of those personality sales. I mean, there wasn't anything technical to it. So everybody couldn't do it, but anybody could do it. And you never knew until you tried.
Was it your own coffee shop?
No, it was like it was part of the bigger corporation's company.
Okay.
So
was it Starbucks?
That was Starbucks. I always think we missed a great opportunity because they were a public entity. They took the construction company public and then the waste company public.
Right.
But at that time, probably 86, 87 maybe, Joffrey's Coffee was for sale.
I haven't heard of it. Okay. This was in New York?
No, this was down in Tampa here.
Okay.
So it was a small brewer or a small roaster with like 3 or 4 retail shops. Mm-hmm. And if you just ask yourself, late 80s, small roaster with a few retail shops, what would that ever become?
Right, right.
And we passed on it, but
look what Starbucks was able to scale,
exactly.
right? Starting out there in Seattle.
That's all it was. He was a small roaster with a few retail stops.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even drink coffee that much, to be honest with you, but I've been to that original one out in Seattle.
Have you really?
The Starbucks, and
Very cool.
to think that it went from that to what it is globally now, it is
amazing.
pretty crazy. It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Favorite TV show or movie?
I don't know. We just sort of run through Netflix, whatever's coming up on Netflix.
Yeah. There's
catch a
plenty of
series.
options on there.
Sometimes they're terrible, and sometimes
are you a
they're
sports
gripping.
fan at all?
Yeah.
Do you like baseball?
The Bucks. Yeah. Baseball, not my favorite, but
you're a football guy?
Yeah, football.
Okay.
Hockey.
I was just gonna say they have a Pete Rose documentary now on Netflix.
Do they?
Which is actually pretty fascinating. It's 4 seasons, it's 4 episodes, but it's obviously his whole story from how great he was as a ball player to when he started getting into gambling, and a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I never even knew about him. And so I just finished it like this week. So I'm recommending it for the baseball fans out there who might want to check it out.
My wife has a Pete Rose story, and she wouldn't appreciate me telling it.
Oh, really?
But she was in Pittsburgh back in the time, and they all hung out at this bar, and Pete Rose hung out, and he was relentless, and she just blew him off completely.
That's actually a little bit of the episode.
Oh, is it really? Maybe we should watch it.
He had an interesting dynamic with a lot of the women, for sure.
She did not like him at all, and
he
didn't get anywhere with her.
I could just see that. Pete has a pretty I would say prickly personality, with what I could tell from the show anyway. And so
there's watch that for sure.
Yeah. You should check it out. I think you'd find it interesting. It's not, again, if you're not baseball guy, I think you can still appreciate it though because of who he is and his history and all that stuff.
Yeah, and baseball was my sport as a kid. So I always loved baseball. But,
there you go.
Watching it live is different than watching it on TV. So
hockey's,
we love hockey. Being from Buffalo and being from here.
There you go.
And being in
become
Tampa
Lightning fan now.
Oh yeah, when the Lightning started, we were going to games in the fairgrounds, if you can remember that. Maybe you weren't here then. But they were at the stadium downtown where the Rays play.
Yep.
And they were terrible locations for hockey, but we didn't care.
It's exciting news with that new Rays stadium getting passed. You hear about that now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it seems like they're gonna build up that whole area around the stadium too. It should be pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's good. 2028, I think, was the projection on that.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
So that'll there's already been so much growth and development in that area that could really add even more.
Yeah, and it will stretch it out towards Central.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to have to put a bow here on the episode, Paul, but one of the questions I always ask to kind of put I call it a legacy question is as you think about when that time comes and you're kind of relaxing in your Italian villa, sipping your coffee and thinking about what you'd want to be most remembered for, what you'd want your legacy to be. What do you think are some of the most important things to you that you would want to be most remembered for?
Oh, obviously the love for my wife and my child, of course, so.
It's a good answer, Paul. Good answer.
Very good.
Paul, your wife's going to like that one, yes.
She will, right? No, but it's true, though. We do everything together, so we really do love spending time together. 2
kids, you say?
One daughter.
You have one daughter. How old is she?
She's 28 now.
And she lives in this area?
She lives in near Eglin Air Force Base.
Okay.
So
where's Eglin? Where's that?
Up in the Panhandle.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
so her husband's in the Air Force.
Got it.
She was an Army medic, so she's a graduate of FSU.
Nice.
Did that, then she
Seminole,
went to the
huh?
Army. Yeah, she's Seminole for sure.
Yeah.
So,
We just took the family up there for 4th of July week. We were up in Panama City Beach.
yes, exactly.
So it was a fun week.
Yeah, that whole stretch of 30A. Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah, there's still some devastation from the hurricane that they had a couple of years ago when you take that ride.
Yeah.
But there's some really pretty areas up there too, for sure.
So other than that, I mean, I don't think too much along those lines. I really think that what I'm doing right now, I could do for the next 10 to 15, 20 years.
Sure, why not?
And honestly, it doesn't matter how much money you have, if you got 500,000 or 50 million. I don't find people enjoying themselves living off of their savings. You spend your whole life trying to save money.
Yeah.
And then you have to turn that off and all of a sudden spend it.
And it just feels stressful, you mean?
Spends hard, yeah.
Yeah.
Or income spends more fluently.
That makes sense. It really does.
And I don't really have a desire to retire.
It feels like the income, I guess, just feels more freeing. It feels like it
Very
flows
free.
easier.
Yeah, income spends freely, wealth
Versus
spends
like this whole
reluctantly.
race of, am I going to have enough money? How long am I going to live?
Yeah, am I going to outlive my money? It's stressful.
Yeah.
You know, stock market goes up, stock market goes down.
Right.
So I would like to continue to work as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I think real estate, and I have a loan origination license. I think I could do those two things for a very long time.
Why not?
Exactly.
Right.
So that's my plan.
That's
my
cool,
goal.
man. I admire that. I actually feel the same way. I don't really have any desire of retirement. You know, I just don't. It's not part of my DNA.
Exactly.
I don't think I'll ever really want to not do something, you know, in business and in work. Because I just love to create. I love to build various things. And I feel like that's always, as long as I'm alive, I'm going to want to do something,
exactly.
right?
As long-
So I can relate to that.
And even with the Italian thing, it was sort of like, well, you need to do it while you can.
Yeah.
You wait too long. If your knees aren't good, if your hips are bad,
Yeah.
Italy is not the place for you.
A lot of walking.
A lot of walking,
A lot of
a lot
hills.
of stairs, a lot of hills, you know. But those old Italians, I mean, they live forever walking
Yeah.
up those hills. You know, you look at them and you think, yeah.
And the
wanna do
food out
that.
there, we know we talked about it before, but it's also healthier for you, I have to imagine.
It is.
Like the Mediterranean diet, what that does for your heart, you know, that's got to be better than some of the stuff that we seem to chow down over here.
Yeah, even the wheat. I mean, we have friends come over that are gluten-free, and they're eating bread and pizza, and it's not affecting them the same way as it does here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Dude, it was a pleasure to have you on.
Hey, it was a
I know
lot
we
of
didn't
fun.
get a chance to ever really meet before this, so I'm glad that we had you on the show, and I hope that everything went well with the feature and everything. So this is your gift, so you can bring that frame home with you.
Wonderful.
We'll wrap the episode up the way we always do, which is to a challenge to the audience. Before I do that, if there's anybody who wants to pick your brain, Paul, maybe about Italy or about anything, coastal properties, just learn a little bit more about your story, what's the best way for someone to contact you?
They can get me at 727-919-1927, or I'm at paulsimonrealtor.com.
There you go. Simple. We'll put that up on the description too, so that your contact stuff is easy there.
Excellent.
But we always challenge our audience when they watch these episodes, whether you're watching live through our platforms or you're listening on any of the podcast platforms out there. And as a side note, if you don't already subscribe, just click the button so that way you are notified every time a new episode drops, which is every week. So go ahead and subscribe to it so that you'll be notified. But what's one action step that you can take from our conversation today with Paul that'll help propel your business or just your personal life forward in a positive direction? Maybe you're somebody who's been really curious about Italy, right? And you wanted to go, or you were inspired by what Paul's been able to accomplish here with his lifestyle now with his beautiful wife, and you might be interested in something similar. So he might be a great resource to just pick his brain a little bit and learn more about what it looks like to actually buy something out there in Italy. His example of how he's been using the office there on Beach Drive right in St. Pete as a way to just initiate conversation, and has been his way of growing his business. I think that's just a very simple strategy that can make sense for a lot of agents out there, as long as, of course, the brokerage you're with has some sort of great location that could be taking advantage of that foot traffic there. But what is it going to be for you? What's one thing that you can do to take an action step forward that's going to propel your business forward? And if you do that, then the time that you invested in watching this podcast makes it that much more worth it. We, of course, will see you on the next episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers, powered by Top Producers Nation. Check that out at topproducersnation.com. We'll see you later. Bye.